When I first saw her step off the stagecoach, I knew something was wrong. She was wearing red. Not a polite red either. Not the dusty maroon of a churchwoman's shawl or the faded cranberry of a prairie dress. No, this was scarlet silk that caught the sun like a flame, and her hips swayed like she owned the whole damn road. I tipped my hat out of habit, but my stomach was twisting. That wasn't Sarah Beth Collins, and I would have bet my last bale of hate she wasn't any mail-order bride. "Mr. Crow?" she asked, her voice low and slow, with a southern drawl soaked in smoke. I blinked. "That's me. You're—" "Violet McCall," she said, offering her hand with a smile that could unbuckle a preacher's belt. "Sarah Beth couldn't make it." I stood there dumb as a post, mouth half open, trying to make sense of the dust storm that had just kicked up inside me. This was supposed to be a new beginning. After Martha died 2 winters ago, I'd gone near mad with grief. The ranch stayed afloat by muscle memory, but my heart had gone hollow. Pastor DeWitt told me to write to Sarah Beth, a God-fearing widow from Missouri. Said she'd make a fine companion, a woman of virtue and spirit. Now here stood this woman, this stranger, looking me dead in the eye like we had history. "I have a letter," she said, pulling a folded paper from her bodice. I tried not to look as she reached in. Lord help me. She handed it over. "It explains everything. Maybe not all at once, but enough." The paper trembled in my hand as I opened it. It was in Sarah Beth's handwriting, sure enough, but the first line nearly stopped my heart. "Tobias, I couldn't come, but Violet can. You need her more than you need me." I looked up. "What kind of joke is this?" She shrugged. "It ain't a joke. It's the kind of thing only a woman who's seen hell would understand." That's when I realized her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. She wasn't just bold, she was hiding something. I scanned the letter but couldn't make sense of it all. There was talk of regret, faith, forgiveness, and something else, tucked between the lines like a shadow behind a curtain. "You said you were God-fearing," I muttered. She smirked. "Fear at God don't mean fear of truth." I should have sent her packing right then and there, but something in her voice, and the way her shoulders stiffened when she looked toward the hills, told me she wasn't just passing through. She was running from something, and whatever it was, it might be coming right behind her. So I said, "You can come inside, just for the night." She nodded, and for the briefest moment, her guard dropped. "Thank you," she said softly. And just like that, the woman in red walked into my home, and I couldn't shake the feeling I'd just let a wolf into the hen house.
The letter didn't make a lick of sense until I read it again by lantern light that evening. Violet was sitting at my kitchen table, her red dress traded for a faded flannel shirt that had belonged to Martha. She looked smaller in it, like maybe she was trying to vanish into someone else's skin. I stayed quiet, rereading Sarah Beth's words with a gnawing feeling in my gut. She won't look like the woman you expected. She isn't, but she's the one who saved me. Saved her? From what? I had no right to write a man like you. I only knew your name because of what happened with your land case years ago. But when I read your letters, so honest, so broken, I thought maybe you were the kind of man who could help someone like her survive. I looked over at Violet. She was sipping tea, but her hand shook slightly. "I'm safe now. I found peace. Violet hasn't. I owe her more than I can say. Please give her a chance. You're the only man I trust with her life." I folded the letter and set it down like it might bite. "Sarah Beth never planned on coming," I said. "No," she replied. "She's better off where she is, with the sisters in St. Helena." "You two were close?" Her eyes locked onto mine. I pulled her out of a judge's bedroom window with a knife in my teeth and a bullet in my thigh. So yeah, we were close. I stared. Judge Morrison? She looked away, jaw tightening. You know him? Not personally, but I know he's got powerful friends and a hell of a temper. She nodded slowly. Yeah, and he's got men, not lawmen, real killers. One of 'em saw me in Dodge, and I reckon he's been on my trail since. She glanced at the door. If they followed me here... I stood up fast, the chair scraping behind me. You brought that danger to my doorstep? You didn't plan on it, cowboy, she snapped, but danger's part of the package. You want to toss me to the wolves? Do it now. Her voice cracked on the last word. And just like that, I saw it. Beneath the sharp tongue and painted lips, she was scared. Not of me, not really, but of the men who might show up tonight. Why me? I asked. Why did Sarah Beth pick me out of a pile of strangers? She said you lost more than your share, that maybe you would understand someone who doesn't know where to go next. I didn't answer, just walked to the door and checked the bolt. You can stay the night. After that, we'll see. She whispered thanks again, quieter this time. I left her in the kitchen and walked past the room that was supposed to be the nursery. The crib I never finished was still under a sheet in the corner. I thought of Martha, of our baby, of the kind of life I'd wanted and the ashes I'd been left with. And then I thought of Violet, sleeping under my roof with men chasing her like bloodhounds. I knew I should have turned her in or sent her packing. But some part of me, some deep, angry part that never healed right, wanted to see what would happen if I didn't.
I woke just before dawn to the creak of floorboards and the smell of coffee. Violet was already up, barefoot, standing by the window with her arms crossed. The mug sat untouched on the table. She didn't turn around when she said, "You've got a room down the hall with a rocking chair and a pile of baby quilts." My throat tightened. "I didn't go snooping," she added, finally looking back at me. "The door was cracked. I thought it might be a study." "It was gonna be a nursery," I said, voice rough. "Martha was 6 months along when she caught the fever. Took her in 3 days. Took the baby, too." Violet nodded, not offering any hollow apologies, just letting the silence settle between us. "I'm sorry," she said finally. "Sarah Beth told me. I didn't think it was real until I saw the room." I rubbed a hand down my face, suddenly worn to the bone. How'd she know that? I never told her. "She said she found your name in old court records. The land case you lost against the railroad company. Something about survey maps being altered, deeds overwritten." I stared. "That was buried years ago." "Not to her. Said your testimony was the only honest thing in the whole hearing. That's what made her trust you." I leaned against the doorway. "So she finds my name, reads my court statement, and just, what, decides I'm the kind of man who should take in a stranger with a death wish? Guess she figured broken people might keep each other standing." That stung, because it sounded exactly like something Martha would have said. "I fought that land case for 4 years. They took half my acreage, promised a railway, never built it. Martha begged me to let it go, said we could start over anywhere, but I couldn't. Pride got in the way." "What happened?" "They called me a liar. Judge Morrison presided over the final appeal." "It was him?" I nodded. I never saw his face, just heard his voice from behind the bench. We stared at each other. "That means he knows who you are," she said slowly. "You weren't just a random address in a letter." Everything inside me turned cold. "Sarah Beth didn't send you to me. She hid you with me." By midday, the wind had picked up something fierce.
Dust blew in from the south, riding hard across the plains like it had bad news to deliver. Violet stood near the barn, watching the hills. She hadn't said a word in an hour. I was oiling my rifle on the porch when she finally spoke. "You ever kill a man, Tobias?" I looked up. "You asking for curiosity or comfort?" She turned to me, eyes unreadable. "I'm asking because I think we're about to need to." I didn't answer right away, just slid the bolt back and forth, listening to the clean click of it settling into place. "I killed once," I said finally. "Wasn't in war, wasn't noble. Man came onto my land with a bottle and a gun, drunk, thought he could take what he wanted. I buried him out near the creek." Violet nodded slowly like she respected the confession. "Sarah Beth's husband," she said, her voice low, "wasn't just a judge. He ran a pipeline of bribes through 5 counties, land, licenses, even freight routes. He laundered it all through a fake trust, used Sarah Beth's name on most of the documents." I set the rifle down. "That's why she ran. That's why we ran," she said. "I was the one who found the ledger. He used me like a ghost, signed contracts in my name too, knowing no court would ever take the word of a whore over a federal judge." I was still. "And you think I had something to do with it?" She looked at me hard. "You were one of the few men who challenged his ruling in open court. Sarah Beth thought your case was thrown out because of corruption, not evidence. She thinks Morrison had reason to bury you, and now that I'm here, he's got reason to finish the job." The wind kicked up again, and I had to squint through the grit. "He ain't gonna send lawyers this time," I said. "No," Violet whispered. "They'll send the men who do the cleaning." She pulled something from her satchel, a worn telegram. I took it and read. It was from a contact of hers in Wichita. "Crawford spotted headed west, 3 riders, badge on 1, not legal." "Crawford," I said. "Marshall on paper, Morrison's hatchet man in practice." I felt a cold sweat slide down my back. "So what now?" I asked. She looked at me, dead steady. "You ever wonder why they wanted your land, Tobias?" "All the time." "They promised a railway," she said. "Never built it." I nodded. "But maybe they didn't care about the rail. Maybe they cared about what was under it." That's when she pulled out an old folded map, faded, hand-marked with notes in 2 different sets of handwriting. "Sarah Beth found these in a lockbox before she ran," she said. "They showed mineral veins, silver, maybe copper, running straight through land Morrison had condemned as unfit, yours included." I sat back stunned. "You're saying he buried the survey results?" "She's saying he rewrote them." My heart pounded like a war drum. "Martha's family, her father was a surveyor. He charted every inch of this valley before he died," I muttered. Violet's eyes sharpened. "Then the proof might still be here." I stood up. "I know where he kept his papers." At that moment, a glint of sunlight flashed off something in the distance. A rider, then another. "They found us," she whispered. I grabbed the rifle. "Then we ain't got time to run."
They came wearing tin stars and fake smiles. 3 men rode up just after sundown. Clean-shaven, crisp boots, horses lathered from the ride. The one in front was tall, well-fed, and smug as a fox in a henhouse. His badge said Deputy U.S. Marshal, but it might as well have been tin foil for all the truth behind it. "Evening, Mr. Crow," he said, doffing his hat. "We're looking for a fugitive. Goes by Violet McCall. Dangerous woman. Escaped custody in Kansas." I leaned against the porch rail and forced a calm I didn't feel. "Don't know the name," I said. "Ain't seen anyone out this way in weeks." He smiled, slow and knowing. "That so?" The 2 behind him spread out, glancing toward the barn, the windows. One fingered his rifle,
like it was an extension of his spine. "I'll need to take a look around. Routine." I held up a hand. "Not without a warrant. This is private property." That got a chuckle. "Sure is," he said, dismounting. "But this badge gets me through most gates." He stepped up onto the porch. I didn't move. "Name's Crawford," he said quietly, close enough now that I could smell his tobacco breath. "And I know she's here." That's when Violet stepped out of the barn. No gun, no boots, just confidence. "Evening, Marshal," she said, like she was greeting a poker buddy. Crawford turned, startled for only a second before regaining his grin. "Well now, ain't this cozy?" "You're early," she said. "I expected you by morning." Crawford looked her up and down. "Still mouthy, I see. Morrison sends his love." Violet's jaw tensed. That's when I saw the third man loop around back. He was trying to cut off his escape. I nodded once to Violet. She didn't nod back, but I saw her eyes flick toward the root cellar hatch, hidden beneath the feed barrels. I stepped forward. "You got what you came for, now get." Crawford's grin vanished. "You think this is a negotiation?" Then he drew. So did I. The shot missed us both, on purpose, maybe, but it was enough. I shoved Violet toward the barn, yelling, "Go!" We ran. Bullets cracked behind us. One splintered a post just inches from my head. We dove into the root cellar and yanked the hatch shut just as boots thundered overhead. Darkness swallowed us. Dust filled our lungs. "Where does this lead?" she gasped. "Cattle trail," I wheezed. "Goes east under the field. It's old, tight. Don't stop moving." We crawled through damp earth and spider webs, the flicker of lantern light behind us fading fast. Somewhere above they were ransacking the house, looking for papers, for her, for me. "They're searching the barn next," she said. "The maps, are they still up there?" I stopped cold. "What?" "The survey maps," she whispered. "You said Martha's father hid his documents. Where?" I stared at her in the dark, and I saw something shift in her. She grabbed my hand. "Then let's finish this."
The tunnel led out behind a thicket near the east fence line, roughly 100 yards from the barn. By the time we crawled out, my arms were shaking, and Violet's hair was full of cobwebs and grit. She wiped her face with the back of her hand. "We go in quiet?" I shook my head. "No time for quiet. We go in fast." The sky had turned ink black. No moon. Just the faint glow of lanterns through the barn slats. I could see two silhouettes moving inside. "They're still searching," I whispered. "Probably looking for ledgers or deeds." "They'll find the trunk if they start lifting floorboards," she muttered. I led her to the rear hatch, the one I used to throw hay bales down from the loft. We crept through the corral, hearts pounding in sync. I climbed the back rail, pushed the hatch open inch by inch, and slipped inside. Violet followed, silent as a ghost. Above us was the loft. Below, boots clomped over wooden planks. I motioned to her, up. We climbed the ladder slow and careful. The moment we reached the top, I pulled the tarp off the corner chest. Violet held the lantern while I flipped the latch. Inside, old surveyor's tools, oilcloth maps, a ledger bound in cracked leather. I dug deeper until I saw it, a rolled parchment with Martha's father's initials in the corner. I unrolled it on the floor just as I heard voices below. "You sure this is it?" one asked. "Boss said check under the floorboards," said another. "Swear I saw Crow come out of here with someone." I barely heard him. My eyes were on the map. Hand-drawn notations, elevation marks, red mineral veins running straight beneath my ranch, extending past 3 neighboring homesteads. And then, a set of handwritten annotations in a different ink.
Sarah Beth's. She'd compared it with official land plats, ones filed by Morrison's court, and marked every discrepancy. He hadn't just condemned good land. He rerouted boundaries, stole the rights to a silver-rich vein, and rerouted claim deeds into the hands of shell companies. I felt sick. "This isn't just theft," Violet whispered, studying the notes. "It's federal fraud, cross-territory. If this gets to the right people, Morrison hangs." Footsteps creaked up the ladder. I stuffed the documents under my shirt and turned to Violet. "Can you shoot?" She pulled a snub-nosed Derringer from her boot. "Depends who's asking." A shadow loomed. The first man popped his head into the loft, and I cracked him with the butt of my rifle. He tumbled backward down the ladder with a scream. Another cursed below. "Run!" I yelled, grabbing Violet's hand. We kicked open the side hatch and slid down the hay chute, landing hard in the pasture mud. Gunshots cracked behind us. We ran, side by side, across the field, through the brush, toward the gully that cut behind the property. When we finally stopped to catch our breath, she turned to me, panting. "You still want to send me away in the morning?" I looked at her, hair wild, dress torn, face smudged with dirt and courage, and I shook my head. "No," I said. "I think we just became partners."
We didn't stop moving until the ranch was a memory behind us. By dawn, we reached the shale ridge that overlooked the northern bluff trail. From there, we could see the road winding west toward the territorial capital and the rising dust of riders headed our way. "They're not wasting time," Violet muttered, wiping sweat from her neck. "Not with what we've got." I patted the satchel slung across my chest, now packed with the survey maps and ledgers that could rip Morrison's empire in two. We'd need a miracle to make it to the capital alive. Instead, we got Crawford. He was waiting by the abandoned way station near the ravine, alone, unarmed, hands raised like he was expecting to die. Violet spotted him first. "That's a trap." "Maybe," I said, "but he could have brought a dozen men. He didn't." I approached slowly, rifle ready. "Easy," he said. "I'm not here to fight. Could have fooled me after last night." He looked worn out, clothes dusty, lips swollen from the tumble I gave him. He didn't meet my eyes. "You know what's in that satchel, don't you?" Crawford nodded. "Enough to get us all killed." "You saying you want out?" Violet asked, stepping up beside me. "I'm saying Morrison sent me to bury everything tied to that land, but when I saw those maps, when I realized he sent me knowing I'd be expendable once the job was done, I started thinking real hard about who the fool it was in all this." I stared at him. "Why tell us now?" He looked at Violet. "Because I know what you did for Sarah Beth. I saw the bruises she carried. You got her out when no one else dared." She narrowed her eyes. "So this is gratitude?" "This is survival," he snapped. "Morrison's not cleaning up messes anymore. He's torching the whole barn. You, me, him, we're all liabilities now." He reached into his coat, slowly, and pulled out a sealed envelope. "A letter from a court clerk in Junction City proves Morrison altered mineral rights with forged surveyor stamps." I took it. The seal was still intact. "You really switching sides?" I asked. "I'm switching to whoever lives," Crawford said grimly. "And right now that's not Morrison." That's when we heard the hoofbeats. 6 horses cresting the ridge behind us, dust pluming behind them like smoke. "They don't look like they're here to arrest anyone," I muttered. Crawford paled. "He didn't send them for you. He sent them to clean up me." In that moment I knew he was telling the truth. Violet looked at me. "Well,
We're not making it to the Capitol on foot." I pulled the satchel tight. "Then we're going to need their horses." "What's the plan?" Crawford asked. I gave him a thin smile. "Same one I used when the railroad tried to screw me. Bluff and pray." We stepped out into the open just as the riders slowed, hands on holsters. I shouted, "If you shoot, you're lighting the fuse that'll burn Morrison down to his boots." They stopped, confused. One of them shouted back, "What are you talking about?" "Maps, deeds, letters, everything your boss has been hiding from federal eyes. It's all in here, and if I go down, copies go out." It was a lie. There were no copies, but they didn't know that. They hesitated. Then one of them turned his horse. Another cursed under his breath. "I didn't sign up to hang." Just like that, they peeled off, one by one. I exhaled, knees damn near buckling. "You bluffed," Crawford whispered. "Didn't have much choice." He nodded, then handed me the reins of his horse. "Then let's ride before your luck changes." We mounted up, the three of us, and rode like hell toward the Capitol.
The smoke from my ranch was still visible halfway to the Capitol. They burned it, just like Violet said they would. Every rafter, every fence post, every memory of Martha, all turned to ash. I didn't say a word as we rode past the final bend into town. Neither did Violet. Some grief sits too deep to share out loud. We reached the federal marshal's office just before sundown. The man in charge, Marshal Everett, wasn't the kind to scare easy, but when I unrolled those maps across his desk, his face went pale. "This," he said slowly, tracing the red mineral veins with a calloused finger, "this goes far beyond Morrison." We handed over everything. The ledgers, the forged stamps, the letter Crawford brought. All of it. "You realize what this means," Everett said. "He had judges, bankers, and surveyors in his pocket. This could shake 7 territories." "That's your business now," I said. "Mine's rebuilding." But it wasn't that simple. Nothing ever is. Within 2 days, warrants were issued for Morrison and 3 associates, but he'd already fled south into Mexico territory. "Justice takes time," Everett warned us. "Sometimes too damn much," I muttered. But Violet, she didn't seem so impatient anymore. She spent the next week staying in a small boarding house near the edge of town. She didn't talk much, but I could see the weight coming off her shoulders 1 ounce at a time. She testified, too. Told the courtroom everything, about the judge's private basement, about Sarah Beth, about the night she bled for other people's sins. I was there when she stepped down from the stand. The entire room was silent. Even the judge looked shaken. Outside, she pulled off her gloves and leaned against the stone wall, eyes closed. "Feel lighter?" I asked. She smiled, slow and tired, like I'd just unloaded 20 pounds of ghosts. We returned to the ranch weeks later, or what was left of it. The barn was a skeleton, the house gone. But the land remained. The same soil Martha once walked barefoot across, the same hill where I buried her under the big oak. Violet stood beside me as I looked over it all. "Still think I was the wrong bride?" she asked gently. I chuckled. "I think maybe I never needed a bride." She raised her eyebrow. I looked at her. "I needed a partner, and a damn good shot." She laughed, a real one this time, not bitter or hollow, but full and warm. We rebuilt the ranch together, slowly, with calloused hands and stubborn hearts. Sarah Beth wrote once, months later. said she was safe, married to a man who treated her kind. She thanked us for truth, for mercy, for second chances. Sometimes I reread that letter when the wind gets mean in winter. And sometimes, when the moonlight hits Violet just right, I think about the day she stepped off that stagecoach and read. The day my life turned sideways and started to make sense again.